also look at registered local bus services and community transport journeys. So local bus services that we provide are the number 444, which goes around Scarborough.
Then you can use it again straight away. Until you need it.
Good afternoon, everybody. Members of the public are entitled to attend this meeting as observers for all those items taken in open session. Please note the meeting is being broadcasted and recorded. If you wish to record the meeting yourself, then please give due regard to the Council's protocol on audio, visual recording and photography in public meetings. Apologies, I think we've got a couple of apologies, do we? I think Councillor Basterman. Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't sent
Yeah, he's informed me. Yeah. No other apologies. Thank you. Minutes from the 8th of August. Do you have a mover? Seconder? All in favour? That's unanimous. Yes.
Just ask something.
Yep.
It's been 4 months since we had the meeting in August. It's an awful long time to think about what did happen. I definitely couldn't remember. I had to read it again to bring it to mind. Would it be possible, irrespective of whether we have a meeting, that at the monthly period, minutes are circulated so we can just, while it's fresh in our mind, would that be possible?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a period where we don't have many meetings, yeah, then we can do that. I'm sure we can do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Declaration of interests. No. Thank you very much. So the first and only application for today is the planning application. This is Zulu Foxtrot 24/01098 Foxtrot Lima, and this is conversion of a vacant visitor accommodation to a 13-bedroom HMO through January at 7 Blandscliff, Scarborough. Amy.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just run to the site. So the site is a terrace property located along the eastern section of Blandscliff. Blandscliff, members may know as a historic cobbled route providing direct pedestrian access from the town centre to South Bay, rather than using Eastborough. I'll just click ahead to, this is a Google image of the site. Scarborough's Old Town is to the north and east of the site, and the town centre and St Nicholas Gardens to the west. The site lies within the designated Scarborough Conservation Area. Oh, sorry. Before running through some of the photographs of the site for members, your officers wish to provide a verbal update in relation to the application for consideration today. Firstly, your officers are now in receipt of the revised plans as documented within the officer report to members. The plan shows that where a bedroom was previously proposed at basement level, this has now been omitted and the bin and cycle storage area enlarged. Subsequently, this has resulted in a proposed scheme for 13 occupants, and this is detailed by the following plans. At basement level, this would provide a communal kitchen and lounge area and separate bin and cycle storage, and then access from Blandscliff at the front of the property directly through to the rear garden. And at ground floor, we have 3 ensuite bedrooms provided, and this is the entrance lobby to the site. And first floor level, a further 3 ensuite bedrooms provided, and kitchen and laundry facilities. At second floor level, we have 4 ensuite bedrooms, and then finally, third floor level, we have a 3rd kitchen and laundry provision. Members will note within the officer report that all rooms meet the required space standards and no objection has been raised by Environmental Services Housing Standards team. Secondly, your officers have received consultation response from the Council's Tourism and Leisure team, and they have confirmed that they have no objection. And finally, should members be minded to approve the application, a further condition is recommended, requesting details of CCTV provision. The condition would read as follows: prior to first occupation of the house of multiple occupation, plans indicating the location of the proposed CCTV cameras and details of their coverage shall be submitted to and approved in writing. The CCTV cameras, as agreed, shall be implemented in full and maintained for the lifetime of the development in the interests of ensuring a safe and secure environment for the occupants and surrounding amenities. I'll just move on to some photographs to give members a bit of an insight into the area and the property itself. So this is Bland's Cliff. The second picture you will see the property itself, which is a 3-storey property with the semi-basement level. And this is from the lower section of Bland's Cliff, looking back towards the property. And this is the rear garden area of the property. Members will note that the gardens are fairly open at the rear here, which is why we've recommended a condition attached for fencing to provided to demarcate the area. A further picture of the gardens. And sorry, this is just showing the full extent of the garden, looking down from the property. And this is the separate area where the bin and cycle storage is proposed, and this is through this entrance here on Bland's Cliff, and this is a separate access that provides a direct route to the rear garden. And then these are just inside the property at the moment, just to give members a bit of a insight into the condition of the property. And then finally, this is a 100-metre radius map of the site, and as outlined in the officer's report to members, although the council's HMO SPD predates the current local plan, at paragraph 6.33, local plan policy HC2, new housing delivery, references made to the HMO SPD and guidance contained therein for assessing the conversion of properties to HMOs in relation to the cumulative impact such uses can have on the character of the defined area or location. Officers consider that the document can be attributed some weight in the determination of this application, and in this case, the proposed HMO along Bland's Cliff, which has a fairly mixed character but is predominantly residential self-contained flats. There are no HMOs situated along Bland's Cliff presently. There are, however, 3 located along Eastborough. And whilst your officers recognise the importance of managing the concentration of HMOs to ensure that there is an appropriate mix of house types and tenures in order to satisfy the varied housing needs in the area, in this case it's not considered that the addition of the proposed HMO would result in a high concentration of HMOs clustered together, with sufficient separation between the proposal and those within the wider area to avoid an intensive concentration of this form of residential accommodation. In conclusion, your officers recommend that should members be minded to approve the application subject to the conditions listed in the report and an additional condition provided by verbal update and review of the new MPPF dated 12th of December, with the decision delegated to the Head of Development Management. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Councillor Jefferson, did you have so we have 2 speakers before. Okay.
When you did a description of the property, when you came to the 3rd floor, you just mentioned a kitchen. You never mentioned...
Sorry, Councillor Jefferson, we'll come to you after we've had the...
No. This is a question to the planner. In her description of the layout of the property, she mentioned the bedroom to the the ground on the 1st floor, but to the 3rd floor, she just said there was just a kitchen. There's actually, according to your notification here, 3 bedrooms, which make the 13.
Yes, that's correct. It's just shown on this plan here. So there's 3.
But you just mentioned the kitchen, you never mentioned there was 3 bedrooms going to be up there as well.
Well, apologies for
point.
that.
So we'll
just to
come
point
back to that,
there's
Councillor Jefferson. Thank
No,
you.
that's all, I just wanted to
Thank you,
point of
Councillor.
order. Thank
Yep,
you.
Thank you. So we do have 2 speakers. The first speaker is Mr. Tony Fenter.
Trying to get out of the car park. So I'm wondering if it's best just to suspend the meeting for a minute, 5 minutes before the speakers.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
I'm putting it in reverse. What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, see which.
Yeah, it's focus. Thank you, Mr. Fenter. You have 3 minutes from when you start.
Are you going to Scarborough Fair or to Scarborough, the HMO capital of North Yorkshire? Scarborough already has 120 HMOs with over 1,000 beds. Selby, Rydale, Hambleton together have only 54. Many seaside towns have been destroyed by high numbers of HMOs. There are 2 quotes from the parliamentary paper on the future of seaside towns. HMOs in seaside towns are acting as a barrier to regeneration, impacting on consumer perceptions and the desirability to visit. We rely on tourism. Blandscliff is a main tourist route. How can an HMO here not affect tourism? What happened to our urban renaissance or our Castle Pride initiative? In seaside towns, high concentrations of HMOs are related to increased antisocial behaviour, poor social cohesion, increased pressure on local services, occupants, often from neighbouring authorities, transient, not putting down roots, establishing or forging attachments. Yes, of course, we definitely need affordable accommodation, but large HMOs are wrong. They exacerbate socio-economic problems. They do not give people dignity or self-esteem, and people should not be treated like cattle just to give higher profit for investors. Conversion to 5 or 7 self-contained flats is a needed and better alternative for both the occupants and the neighbourhood, offers a chance to be a functioning part of the community. 20 years ago, this street was very different. Our present supportive residential community did not exist, but it is a vulnerable community which needs protecting. An HMO, no matter how well managed, could easily destroy this. The police and crime report gives a list of types of crimes associated with this sort of accommodation. Also, this development lies within an area of relatively high crime and disorder. 336 crimes, 125 antisocial incidents in a year, but only 9 to 18 of those were actually in Blandscliff. National planning guidance stresses that assessing applications with regard to their likely effect on crime and disorder, and that fear of crime should not undermine the quality of life or community cohesion and resilience. Sadly, artificially high rents received by HMO landlords make it expensive for investors to buy for the redevelopment into more positive uses. This may be our last chance to stand against the acceptance of more HMOs. Please refuse this application so we can all hope for better alternatives for our seaside towns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fenter. So, can I have no applause, thank you, from the public gallery. Thank you. So the next speaker is Mr. John McDermott, and he's the agent. Again, Mr Madem, you have 3 minutes from when you start.
Thank you very much, Chair and members. Firstly, our thanks to Amy and her team at Planning for working so diligently with us on this application. We've been working together on it for about 6 months, and the application you have before you is as a result of those discussions. Members, HMOs on their own don't cause harm. HMOs are a part and parcel of a very important link in a housing delivery chain. They allow young people to leave home for the first time and experience independent living. They also provide vital out-of-home living for workers who are joining the community for the first time, who may be working in industry locally. The whole point about delivering an HMO here is about replacing what could be a transient population, a tourist unit, which, to be all honest, doesn't have any controls on it on who could live there per se, with a less transient population, people who will live and work in this town. That's part of what an HMO can deliver. Working with your officers, we've reduced the number of bedrooms down to 13, and we note that they have conditioned the total number. So intensification is controlled by condition. Our clients also provided a detailed management plan for the operation of the HMO with an undertaking to deal with antisocial behaviour should it ever arise. The intended occupier for this is blue-collar workers rather than any other bracket of the HMO spectrum. What you have is an opportunity here, and it's an opportunity to bring back into life a vacant building in a conservation area, has been vacant for some time, and to give it a new, vibrant and characterful use that will add to the mix in the surrounding area. You have a detailed report before you which concludes correctly that planning permission should be granted. I therefore commend this scheme to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Members. Councillor Jefferson.
Thank you. Sorry I had to mention that, Amy, about the layout, but it was quite important, really. Right, I'll go through this as quickly as I can. Members, as Castle Ward Division Councillor, I am grateful that in consultation with the Corporate Director of Community Development, within the publicity period and in consultation with the Chair and the Corporate Director, was satisfied that I demonstrated that it raises significant material planning issues, such for the application to be considered by the Scarborough and Whitby Planning Committee today, which I thank you, because I felt it was needed to come to committee. Members, the application before us today to convert what was former visitor accommodation into a 13-bedroom HMO within a 5-storey property, facilitating 3 kitchens to accommodate 13 bedrooms over 4 floors, together with a basement refuge cycle storage, no parking, is not the way forward, bearing in mind the somewhat conflicting government rulings, which I will come to later. For this property situate within a recognised conservation area and being a main visitor link between the main street and the South Bay, together with a close-knit community of businesses and flats. I'll just put some context in past with this, because Amy has referred to the fact of how many HMOs there are presently within the area and how that came about. Turning the clock back to the mid-80s and 90s, following what was a decline in fishing and tourism, and people going on overseas holidays, many of the guest houses and hotels converted into houses of multi-occupation, shared kitchens and bathrooms. Yes, these have got en suite. Eastborough alone, where I live and work, above Bandscliff, had over 8 HMOs, the biggest being 7 probably, or 8 bedrooms, and the Old Town area itself had many, many more. These properties were mainly owned by what was commonly known as absentee landlords, and crime and antisocial behaviour became the norm. I live next door to one, so I could go into more detail, but I won't. Police, etc., and services regularly attending, which is a cost to the community. The community of the area was shattered and destroyed by what went on within these so-called HMOs. People were coming from all over the country. Transience was immense, especially within our local schools. As a community in the mid-90s, we started to fight back and various groups within the area were formed, Castlewart tenants and residents, Eastbourne traders and South Bay traders. We got a tremendous breakthrough between 95 and 2000 when our community changed thanks to the Castle Pride initiative. I'll just briefly tell you, one Saturday morning I received a phone call from a government office asking me if I was aware of the issues of drug dealing, crime, antisocial behaviour and the prominence of HMOs within my area where I lived, and that we could apply for a single regeneration budget and which should help with all these issues. I had to say yes, we did know about it, and yes, we would be interested. And the following Monday, with two colleagues, we met with the then Chief Executive, John Treble, who agreed, yes, the Council, through our Regeneration Department, would take this forward, and the Castle Pride initiative was created. We formed coordinating groups from the three organisations as to what we wanted from this initiative: help with fishing and tourism industry, improved lighting, improved accommodation, most of all a reduction in houses of multi-occupation. This was achieved by awarding grants to landlords to convert into self-contained flats, giving residents a purpose to get up in the morning, quality and most of all improved accommodation. Along with others, I lobbied our then MP to create licensing of HMOs. I think it was John Sykes, I can't remember, which we achieved, and I think we were the first in the county. Meaning a property could no longer be converted into an HMO without official licence, which in turn we were assured would reduce applications of numbers of HMOs within Castle Ward Division. As well as the various representations within this application, there are conflicts regarding government advice, which members need to take on board when considering this application before us today, as to whether they would be minded to approve or disapprove this application for what will be the largest HMO conversion within the Old Town area for some time. From an applicant from another part of the country who purchased it, as we understand, through auction, or properties through the hammer, as we look on the television. We advise within the agenda that through the local plan policies from 2018 set out a resolution in favour, in principle, of this type of development from the government to support housing of this need. However, members, as you will know from the guest speaker, the parliamentary paper on future of seaside towns, which I advise you should all read, contradicts this, stating HMOs are acting as a barrier to regeneration in seaside towns, impacting on consumer perceptions and desirability to visit. Members, we rely on tourism and tourism-related industries. Please take heed of this advice. This report tries to convey a wonderful picture where antisocial behaviour would be managed within this three-bedroomed HMO by what we were given to imply and what is made aware of in this application report by an agent who will look after it, a man that will look after it. It has come to my knowledge that he hasn't got an agreement with this purchaser. So these stipulations that have been put forward are not a binding agreement. He doesn't know anything about them, which states that this condition, or the managing agent, will follow national, regional, residential landlords associations policy on how to tackle antisocial behaviour. He will ensure that only 13 persons will reside at any one time. Smoking and drug dealing will be prohibited. And yes, as Amy has said, CCTV will be a stipulation. There's going to be a 2-metre fence around the garden. I'm sure the residents will like that. There'll be vetting of residents, cleaning of the areas once a week, and the control of waste within the basement area. We've got the new plans, as you said, now, which is good, to provide a waste area within the basement. But waste is a particular issue. You can imagine the amount that will be created by 13 bedrooms. I don't know whether you're aware, but the North Yorkshire Council refuge truck, which weighs unladen 18 tonnes, cannot go down Blandscliff because it is hollow. Okay? So in old money, 18 tonnes cannot go down there to try and help this. I ask in reality, is one of the agent's employees going to live within this 13-bedroom HMO to make these conditions applicable 24/7? No, they are not, because an agent hasn't officially been appointed. Members, I appeal to you as Divisional Councillor. Please refuse this application. Follow the recent parliamentary paper. This property needs to be converted into 7 or 5 flats, as it was the original recommendation from the estate agent. The conversion to an HMO will bring greater return to the purchaser, the investor, through inflated rents. But what will this conversion bring to the area? We are in need of, in this town, of self-contained flats for people. We have a predominance already of HMOs, as was stated by our speaker, 100. They are not full. It's not long ago that we had a firm called Pathway Homes who just bought up houses using government offshore money. They are now in liquidation. I am very concerned. I have lived and worked in this area for over 40 years. Please heed to what I have said. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Councillor Jefferson. I'm just trying to eke out some specific questions in that presentation.
Well, the question to me is, as I have found out over the last few days, within this report that's come out, we stipulate what the agent will be, the managing agent will be responsible for. The person that we were given to understand was going to manage it has got no official agreement with this purchaser. So as it stands, the things that are stated in here, we don't know if they're going to be upheld or not. One of the things, how can you control that only 13 people will reside in that property? You have no control over it at all. And you can't, what you're going to do if people have drugs and etc. To get people out of properties is not an easy movement. I've already got issues in North Yorkshire, through North Yorkshire in Castle Division. And as one of the directors of housing tells me, I've got the worst division in North Yorkshire for this type of property. I have over the years worked very hard within my community, and I do not consider that this large property of 13 bedrooms is going to prove beneficial to the area.
Thank you. So just want to...
In terms of control over the number of occupants, that's been stipulated as one of the planning conditions attached should members be minded to approve the scheme. Furthermore, if the plans are implemented as they are and how we would grant permission for them, it would also be a condition on their HMO licence, which is provided through the environmental services team. So that's how we would control the number of occupants, by condition, and also a condition on their licence when it comes to them gaining that.
Yeah. So, Councillor Jefferson, can I just get some more information?
But somebody has to report it in the first place, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the point about the agent, and Councillor Jefferson is right. We don't know, and we can't control who the managing agent will be. And even if we could, that could change over time as contracts change. But the condition would ensure that whoever is the managing agent has to abide by the terms of the condition, as ultimately does the landowner, because they're ultimately responsible. Now, I'm not naive enough to suggest we can always see what's going on behind closed doors, but that condition, along with the licence, because we would have to work in partnership with the licensing authority, does give scope that if problems arise and we're aware of problems, be it from neighbours or anyone else, members' information, then we do have an avenue to take enforcement action and try and resolve those problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to know, I've got a couple of questions. This is the revised layout, and that's taking it from 14 to 13. And this concerns me because the applicant in the first instance has deemed it possible to make it 14, which would have had the ground floor not as a bin storage, bicycle storage, but as bedroom. And so what provision would they have had there for the 26 bins stroke bags that would be attacked by herring gulls on bin day, had there not been that provision? And even with the application that's in front of us now, there still has to be this problem of who's going to put out trash at the right times, in the right places. I know you've got a management strategy in place, but the reality is, and Weaponess and Ramsey, we've got HMOs as well, and I know that that with all the best will in the world, when it's dictated to at this position, bins tend to go out when they're full, not kept in somebody's bedroom for 2 weeks. So if you've got your bin already full of cat litter, dog food and whatever, it's going to go somewhere in that position. And now, is it going to be stored downstairs? Perhaps, but that doesn't look like that was going to be the original case. Again, HMOs in the very fact that we're discussing HMOs in the 5th richest economy in the world, which means people have to have a bedroom but no kitchen, I think that tells a story a story of where we are with these things. But the applicant has said that these are intended for blue-collar workers, so that's people who are going out to work 40 hours a week, coming back to a single bedroom and sharing a kitchen. And putting the trash hopefully downstairs for an 18-ton wagon to come down along a hollow cobbled cliff every week to take away. I think Councillor Jefferson has really levelled a lot of detail and attention for us to consider with review to this. But if I've got a question to put to you, then it will be the strategy towards ensuring that rubbish, recyclable and what have you is put out and not going to be attracting vermin, seagulls, other creatures on what is the main access roads for tourists in and out of Scarborough.
Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Well, firstly, I would say that obviously we've got the conditional controls within the report itself, should members approve the scheme, and also under the licensing agreement, they would need to comply with the council's storage and waste disposal scheme as part of their HMO licence, and obviously failure to comply with that would mean that they would be in breach and action could be taken that way. What I would also say is that it's not, because of the nature of Scarborough and of other similar areas in our borough, such as Whitby, where everything is very much cheap by jowl, often, as is the case in this situation, the applicant would enter into an agreement with a commercial waste company so that they can get their waste regularly maintained and disposed of. And again, that would be one of the conditional arrangements of the HMO licence as well.
Thank you, Amy. Is there any further questions or comments? Councillor Broadbent, you can make comments if you wish.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, obviously, this is a very important issue, and especially for the residents and the community of the Old Town. Councillor Jefferson has rightly given us a history of what's going on, and over the years, I've always believed that the South Bay is our shop window of Scarborough. So what can harm it? I mean, if you want to look into the situation of HMOs, and I've listened to Councillor Moore on the report of the number of HMOs in Scarborough, and I've always sort of combined them as a thought with temporary porter cabins, classrooms in schools. They shouldn't exist. And a lot of work has been done to eliminate, get things put right. We've looked at all the homeless situations, as the second speaker rightfully said. These young people or these blue-collar workers, they need to start life in the correct manner. And HMOs, to me, don't give that protection, but we are where we are and we do need them at the moment, and let's hope things do change. But I honestly feel that this plan that we're discussing today, 14 down to 13, to me it's still a bit like a tin of sardines, and putting young children, young adults in there, I should say.
It's a recipe for disaster, as I see it. And I just honestly feel that it's the right application to a certain extent, because we do need people need roofs over their heads. It's the most important thing in life. But it's in the wrong place. That this application we're looking at today, we need to be. It needs to be in the middle of where you have doctors' surgeries, good transport, and the South Bay really is, I think, lacking in this sort of provision. I mean, all over Scarborough, they're building new houses, but are they building new doctors' surgeries? 1 or 2 care homes going up? But I think as a planning committee, we work hard to make sure things are right. But I think if this was passed today, we would make the wrong decision. And so I know which way I'm going to vote. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Broadbent. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Chair. Well, 2 issues. Really, the place which is designated for cycles, how many cycles does that allow for? Because being that the fact that they're blue-collar workers, per se, I would have thought the majority of them, the only way to work is either foot or cycle. They've got no other option. So I just wanted to make sure they've got and are they all lockable? Because obviously if they get pinched. So the other thing is to do with the waste. How many bins will there be in there of each type? Remembering that the council are wanting to change the policy and you will have another bin coming on board, or could have. So therefore, every week, how many bins will be parked outside the property and for how long?
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Amy, did you want to?
In this case, they're looking at entering into a commercial waste contract, so it's not necessarily that they're going to be using our domestic bin service as you would normally have. So the commercial waste provider would be collecting the waste from the property. As shown on the plan, they've got 2 commercial waste, sorry, I'll just go back. 2 commercial waste bins within the premises. And again, it's not something that would be collected domestically. It's that they would enter into a contract with the commercial waste company so that it's regularly maintained through them, as opposed to the normal domestic service that you would see for householders.
And that's a condition, isn't it, on the...
It's been included in the management plan, the management plan has been conditioned.
Conditioned, yeah. Was there anything else, cycles?
Yeah, it appears that there's 6 cycle stores provided.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Sharma.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to make some comments about what's been said so far. I think there is provision for bin storage. There is a way of emptying those bins, which doesn't require all the other problems. We seem to be focusing as if somehow houses of multiple occupation are the evil. And if you have 3 sets of flats, they must be wonderful, because only people rich enough to afford them must also be morally decent and not take drugs, not engage in criminality, not do any of those things. And I think that's a very naive approach to take. We do need people, and young people particularly, to come into Scarborough to help the labour force. The idea that every single young person will be able to purchase for themselves a 1-bedroom flat or self-contained flat is a ludicrous proposition. It doesn't deal with the reality of what we are facing. So we need the people, we need to give them some way to get on the housing ladder whereby they can move from somewhere to somewhere else, find work and be able to live. And I think it does meet that. I am content that some of the provisions and the we've put into it will be sufficient to make sure it does work. That's the bin storage, the cycles and so forth. I don't think it's particularly extensive. I think having 3 kitchens is really, really good provision. When you consider I've lived in accommodation as a young person where something like 16 people shared 1 kitchen. So this is not about that student accommodation, if you're wondering where the hell that was.
No.
16 people sharing 1 kitchen, and it created a community. The fact that they've got 3 kitchens is a good thing. I don't see some of the problems that have been highlighted, though I am very, very aware the history of HMOs is very, very bad for this area. And the experience has reasonably led people to be very wary of anything that comes along. But the past is not always the best way to regard what the future is. And I think this HMO, managed the way it is, will be a good thing for the area and good thing for young people to be able to live in some accommodation to go forward in. So for that reason, I will be supporting this application, and I'm willing to propose it if that's...
So you're moving the recommendation?
I'm moving the recommendation.
So I need a seconder for that recommendation? You're seconding the recommendation. Thank you very much. So we do have a mover and a seconder then, so all in favour of the recommendation, which is to approve the application. So against? So it's carried because of...
No.
You have to.
Carried by the chair.
Okay.
Right. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Comments. It's never was in this report that this was for young people. I worked extensively on a project called Home and Dry, which I didn't mention, which was in the Castle Pride initiative, where 16 to 25-year-olds were given accommodation. They started off and were taught how to look after themselves and their property. There is nowhere in this report where it mentions about children. You've got to look at this with open eyes, and I don't think you are doing.
Thank you, Councillor Jefferson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very disappointing.
Thank you. Thank you again. See you at the next meeting, which is, I believe...
4 months' time?
No, January.
Can you make sure the car park is open as well, please?
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
It's really hard because when I was thinking, I can't work out the way she's not looking for it.
I know.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
There'll be about 10 miles of fuel left, is there?
I think there was some wiggle room insofar as, and I didn't get round to saying it, but you know the pipework on the outside of the building currently